Right. Biology faculty have often been asked by freshmen especially how to do well in a college level biology course. So I have made a set of directions that I have developed from techniques that I have asked students to follow over the last 20 years or so of my teaching career. And I have received feedback from students letting me know which procedure worked and which did not. I also have used some well-known strategies for studying that are published by scientists and information about how memory and sleep especially work in our brain. So one thing students are always nervous, scared, and shocked by is when they first come into college and score really low in their first biology test or quiz. So the problem there may not be your ability to understand and do well in biology. It could be because you have incorrect study habits, and it could be because you have very bad time management skills. It could also be that your biology instruction at your high school level was not up to par and that you did not acquire the basic foundation correctly, and then you have some errors in your concepts and knowledge. Also remember, the way we study and test in high school is not the way we test and study for college. College is very fast. Its pace is twice, if not 4 times as fast as high school. We have higher intensity courses here. More detailed and in-depth knowledge is needed in these classes. And some of you rely more on memorization, which might work in some courses like anatomy, for example, but not for all courses. And even in each of our biology courses, there might be some sections where you have to memorize. But a lot of understanding of biology needs your analytical ability, your ability to understand very difficult concepts, and be able to answer questions that are more analytical than just simple circling the right answer in a multiple choice. Remember that biology is not history, so studying for biology class is very different from studying for a history class or an English class. So the strategies that worked well in those classes may not work here well at all. So I'm going to outline a few strategies that is geared toward biology classes only. Most students first ask, when should you study? So studying should be an ongoing process, such as, you have feeding as an ongoing process, and drinking as an ongoing process, and cleaning and hygiene as an ongoing process. In the same way, study should be part of your daily routine. Study as the material is being presented, not just the last couple of days before a quiz or a test. Follow the steps below for best results. 1, glance over the PowerPoint slides before coming to class and highlight the areas that are difficult. 2, take detailed notes. Ask the instructor to go over anything that you had highlighted if the notes and the lecture do not cover or explain them. 3, it is particularly important to review your notes later on the day that the lecture was given, before you sleep. I repeat, before you sleep. Even if this review is brief, it's going to be very powerful. A quick review the same day promotes the movement of material into our long-term memory. More review will be needed later on, but not as much as otherwise might be the case later on. Number 4, for best results, rewrite the notes using the textbook, the slides, your class notes, all of those as a source. This helps retention at the highest level in your memory. And do this before you sleep that day. And the 5th step is sleep. So you probably have never heard it from your teachers before. Maybe this is the first time, but as an instructor, I will instruct you to sleep for over an hour after you have done from 1 to 4. At this stage, your brain is going to organize all the information that you just took in all day long neatly inside your memory and then store it for long-term memory. So when you cram, this step number 5 is missing when you cram before an exam. Number 6, in the next few days, begin testing yourself and practicing on questions from books, online tests, practice questions, etc. This is a slide to show you the power of naps. So if you look over here, 60 minutes, this nap is best for improvement in remembering facts, faces, and names. It includes slow wave sleep, the deepest type. The downside is you might wake up with a little bit of grogginess. So that's good for sciences. You might want to take a 90-minute nap if you are trying to learn something physical, such as, riding a bike or playing a piano. So this helps with any memory that you're trying to make of procedures. It also leads to improved emotional memory, but that is not connected to what we are talking about today. For most people, it is far more effective to study in many short sessions than to cram during long study sessions. Definitely do not cram. Cramming is jamming the brain, causing information overload. It will result in chaos and nervous breakdown during major college level exams. Next thing I'll talk about is what to do before a class. It's very important that you read the text before the class, but how you read the textbook makes all the difference. If you don't have time to read the whole chapter, at least read the pictures and read the captions of those pictures. Biology is a visual subject, and many of the concepts are best explained as a picture. Don't try to memorize the whole chapter. Many instructors will in fact not use all the information in the text and will add information that's not on the text. The instructor will let you know which parts of the chapter are most relevant during their lecture. Make a list of all the words in the chapter that you don't understand. It's very likely that these are terms that the teacher will explain in a class. If you already have these words written down, you will have a head start on note-taking in class. Also, you're more likely to understand the lecture if you have a good idea about what terms will be important, even if you don't know what they mean. If a picture is used in multiple times in the same chapter, it's probably important. You may want to photocopy the picture and bring it with you to class, or maybe find a similar picture online and print it out. Labeling a picture may be easier than trying to draw it in your notes. However, this strategy may not be appropriate. It depends on the class and on the instructor. If the instructor has slides, online notes, review sheets, or other information, read them prior to class. Also make sure to bring them with you to class. Now, what to do during a class? Come prepared. Bring your books as well as any note sets, review sheets that your instructor has provided. You can often save yourself time if you take notes in the book or on the notes sets rather than in class. One of the most common difficulties in science classes is that it's difficult to keep up with the speed of lecture. If you have the pictures from your book or photocopies of them, you will be able to take notes much more quickly. If you do take notes in your book or somewhere else, make sure to include that in your notes. Write something like, see figure 3.5 in your notes, so that you know when you look at the pictures in your book. Sometimes I ask students in my class to write down the slide number when they're taking notes. That also helps them align themselves when they go home and try to fish out which slide belongs to which section of the notes. If something is unclear in class, ask. Most instructors will not mind you asking for clarification in class. It's often embarrassing to be the one asking the question, but your fellow students will be glad you did. They probably have the same question, but they were too shy to ask, so ask for them. Asking questions does not mean that you seem like a dumb student. It makes you seem like an interested student, and your instructor is going to be very glad that you asked that question. If you have the time, you may want to record the lectures with permission from your instructor, of course. This way, if you miss something, you can always go back to it. You can also listen to the whole lecture again. Some students listen to these on their way to work. It makes them spend time in traffic more productively. Or you can listen to them as you clean the house or go jogging. The key here is the strategy of repeating things. So repetition makes it stick in our memory. It may not stick the first time, but it will stick eventually. I'm next going to talk about how to be a good note taker. 2 very simple things: take good notes in class and arrive on time and be prepared. So don't try to write down everything the instructor says. This is one of the more difficult aspects of being a student, knowing what's important in a lecture. It takes practice. Here are some hints for taking notes. If the instructor writes it on the board, put it in your notes. It's important. If the instructor says this is important or something similar, put it in your notes. That's important. If the instructor refers to something in the book, write down the page or the figure number so you can go back to it later. Develop a system for taking notes. There are official methods for taking notes, or you can develop your own. If there are sets of words that are used a lot in a class, make up a symbol for them that you will remember. For example, I write capital R, small x for reactions. I do not write the word reactions every time. I just write RX. You may want to make a list of these symbols in case you forget. You can try working on your note-taking system by watching a TV show or a movie and trying and taking notes and test yourself to see how detailed you can be. If you miss something during lecture, ask the instructor to repeat the information. Always leave a space and move on. If you miss something, come back and fill it what you have missed later on. Don't miss the next point because you were asking your neighbor about the last point. Then you would have missed 2 things in a stretch. Don't worry about neatness in class. Your notes are only for you. Don't take the time to write incomplete sentences. Try taking notes in a hierarchical form where details and specifics are indented under broader concepts. Leave plenty of blank space to separate concepts and to add notes later. Now, what to do in a lab class? Read the lab for the day and make sure you fully understand what you are doing in class. In most lab classes, you will be expected to be self-sufficient in completing the assignment, so you do need to understand what is expected of you that particular day. As an added bonus, if you are organized and have a plan, you may even finish early. On the other hand, if you spend your time figuring out what you are supposed to do while in the lab, you may not finish the lab on time. So divide and conquer. You may not have the time to do all the parts of the experiment on your own. Part of the skills that a lab class is meant to teach is how to work together. So make sure that you understand all the parts of the experiment, even if your partners in class did part of it and you did not actually conduct the whole experiment yourself.